All right, welcome back to another episode of Me and My Cousins podcast. Today we have a very special guest that we'll be revealing to you and letting you know all the things that this distinguished gentleman has going on. But as you know, on Me and My Cousins podcast, we don't start right out with questions and getting into, what's going on in the world. We start out with a couple of icebreaker questions. So, sir, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, since you coming home, what's the nicest thing a stranger has done for you since you've been home that you can recall?
I would say really it hasn't been strangers, it's just been family. You got to realize when you're going for a stretch like I was going for almost 22 years straight. So a lot of my family and distant family stepped up to the plate and made sure all the gaps was filled as soon as I got home.
Right.
So from a car to clothes to jobs, all those aspects was fulfilled automatically.
Right.
Without even asking a question, raising my hand, or even voicing concern. It was automatically put before me, and that helped.
So never like coming out of 7-Eleven, somebody gave you something, or walking, you know what I mean? Nothing.
I would say since I've been home, the stranger that's not a stranger now that helped me the most was employers. I had two main jobs in the field that I'm in now, and the person I work for now, he gave me a chance.
Okay.
As a convicted felon,
Okay.
Coming into the behavioral health services, that's frowned upon.
Mm-hmm.
He understood my story from the streets because he was raised from the streets,
Right.
And had to cross over into that field.
Okay.
So even though behavioral health services and departments told him don't hire me, he still gave me a chance without even knowing me.
Right.
So I would say that stranger did the most because he was a stranger at the time that, he bestowed that blessing upon me and gave me a chance to prove myself in the field.
That's a beautiful thing. When you can be gone so long and come home, and like you said, upon getting employment, they are strangers to us.
True.
But then they can show the decency as human beings to actually help you get back into society and reacclimate. That's a beautiful thing. So yeah, that is a great answer to that question. Okay. So moving on to the next section of breaking the ice, I'm gonna challenge you with a couple of either ors.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you two names,
Right.
and then you're gonna tell me which name had the bigger impact on Black culture.
Okay.
Just big impact overall, could be positive, negative, whatever you may think, whichever one you think was more impactful on Black culture.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Either or. I guess if you say it's a tie, you got to drink your smoothie.
I know that's right.
All right. So, first, bigger impact on Black culture: Abraham Lincoln or Barack Obama?
I mean, on a face value, people would say Abraham Lincoln.
Why would they say that?
They would think that Abraham Lincoln had a greater impact as far as the Emancipation Proclamation and things of that nature. But when we look at a cultural impact, Barack Obama had more of an influence and impact on our people,
Right.
because he got young people that's not even really into politics to vote,
Right.
to come out and voice their voice.
Right.
And he set the trend of a successful Black man and the family atmosphere. We didn't have that before the Cosbys. So when you look back at
Nice perspective.
when we was brought up, you had three dynamics. You had Good Times, you had the Jeffersons, and you had the Cosbys.
Right.
So when you look at those are class systems for us. But we didn't know that. We recognized the struggle
Right.
with the Jeffersons or Good Times,
Right.
and then we idolized where the Cosbys was at.
Right,
But we didn't know that we was looking at three different class systems of our people.
Yeah.
Exactly. So before the Cosbys, we didn't have an example of what a successful Black family dynamic was.
Yeah.
So going up to Barack and Michelle and their children,
Right.
they allowed us to even come in the White House and see their before. So a lot of times you just getting what's put to the media of how the family is in the White House.
Right.
You don't see their come up.
Right.
You don't see their struggles. You don't know how they was on the streets of Chicago and things of that nature.
Right.
But with the Obamas, you did. So we was able to relate to that because we seen their ground zero.
Facts.
Way before the elections, way before the campaigns, we seen their ground zero.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see that. They don't see what the success was rooted from. They don't see what the glamour when it was dull or when it was non-existent.
Right.
They don't see that activation or determination. They just see the end result. So I would say Barack Obama over Abraham Lincoln because it was more of a totality in the impact he had versus what we are taught that Abraham Lincoln had on our people.
Facts. I like that breakdown. All right, so moving along. Next verses. Rosa Parks or Betty Shabazz.
That's a tie. And
You gonna drink your smoothie?
That's a tie.
Okay, I like that. Tough question. Okay.
Yes, indeed.
So
yes,
you know
indeed.
this one is the age old one, but you know I got to throw it out here. So you know we've been hearing this one since we were kids, but I got to bring it to the table again. Dr. Martin Luther King or Malcolm X?
I would say I'm gonna speak on that, but that's equal, and a lot of people don't understand that. They don't even understand the dynamics of the two, or how much contact and communication they actually had.
With each other. Right.
See, because that's taken away on a media level, because a lot of times they want to pin us against each other when we're working together behind the scenes, and the dynamics or the parties that we may represent don't see eye to eye or understand the other. They look at it as an opposition instead of another side of the coin. So when you're looking at Malcolm showed us that within growth, you can change your mind.
Right.
That how you start is not how you finish. When I look at Malcolm, you see Detroit Red, and then you see Malcolm X.
Right.
That shows you what we can do when we put our mind to our personal change
that we can create within ourselves.
Exactly, because coming from Detroit Red to Malcolm X, you don't see that.
Yeah, that was. Yeah,
you don't see that, and that was in the midst of his incarceration, but also at a pivotal point of his journey.
Right.
So he could have continued to be Detroit Red. It wasn't like now where they put you away forever. He still was getting out regardless.
No doubt.
He could have strengthened his street sense. He could have strengthened his negatives and came back out like a lot of brothers that I ran into, saying that I'm gonna be stronger in the game and more dangerous when I get released this time.
I was once one of those guys.
True. Likewise, at the same time, he chose to educate himself and felt that empowerment and came out and also seeing what he could do for his people. See, he was on the other side of the streets, and when we get further into my interview, that's where I was at too. Where that you have a calling and you may not can recognize the makeup of that calling. Where that the environment produces something in you and you have the choice to say, okay, either I'm gonna be on this side of the street or I'm gonna be on that side of the street. Either I'm gonna do it this way or I'm gonna do it that way. And that's where Malcolm was at upon coming from Detroit Red to Malcolm X. He comes out. On the other hand, we gotta look at the power of the black church.
Can't deny it.
The power of the black church, and we have to understand this, our time in this country, that's what we had for the longest period of time. That was our relief, that was our backup, that was our voice, that was our refuge, was the black church. From slavery all the way up to now, the black churches was always in the community, always uplifting our generational aspect of family. When you go back to your grandmother, your great grandmother, it was the Bible, it was the church that gave them the strength to produce more and more generations and produce them stronger, right? They also gave us structure and direction. So by the time Martin Luther King came and he added that to political movements and civil rights and changing laws and getting things done on that level, that was a whole nother dynamic. But we had both of these brothers side by side on each side of the street getting it done. So whether you still was out hustling or on the soapbox, they was reaching you.
Right.
So the conversation, I can only imagine the conversations they had behind the scenes and what they was getting done. And this led to us not understanding why it was felt they had to be assassinated. So we have to look at these things and the power that union and unity brought forth that people feared.
Check out a clip from the classic sitcom, Me and My Cousins.
Donald Trump ain't got no toupee. His hair real. There ain't no damn toupee.
That's messed up, Larry.
Yeah, cuz you agreed to leave the tip, man. How you just gonna renege like that when it's time to go?
Man, I did leave her a tip, man. I told her it supposed to rain later on, so take an umbrella with her, man, just in case.
This that Reverend y'all was telling me about?
Yeah, that's just greasy ass.
How you doing, Rev? I'm Shell.
Well, how you doing, Shell? My name is Reverend Coonan.
What the hell you doing, Rev Coon? You ain't no damn zombie.
Crazy as fuck?
Rev Coon, what's wrong with you, man?
Oh, Lord, the devil done got to be. Somebody call the exorcist.
What's wrong with you, Reverend?
All I know is that when I smoked that bag of weed that Lil Wayne left, I got nauseous. I started throwing up. My blood pressure went up. And I started having seizures.
Bag of weed.
Babe, what you done now? I know that look.
I ain't do nothing. We got Beck to drop us off a couple bags of weed, one to smoke and one to research.
Y'all too dumb to be scientists, so what kind of research could y'all possibly be doing?
Nah, O'Shea. We just been hearing so much about this spice and K2, man. We want to see what it look like.
Don't y'all know that stuff causes paranoia and hallucinations? And y'all saying he might have smoked that stuff?
Pretty much. I mean, cause it's either that or this nigga done smoked this first piece of crack.
Niggas had something. You take over my body, but you can't take my soul. Donald Trump ain't worth a dime. Let me say something, Donald. I ain't picking no more cotton.
He sound like Bernie Mac.
Scottie Pippen had the nerve to say that LeBron James better than Michael Jordan. I'll slap the hell out of Scottie on TNT TV. I'll slap you too, Shaq, with your black ass. You too, Kennedy, Just Smith. Michael is the greatest. Michael is the reason I don't have a job. I don't have a title. I'll slap your Icebreakers, Shaq.
Tito Varchi. Stay forever in style.
That's the same thing when we educate ourselves and become stronger and better and more intellectual with what we already possess on a natural instinct or street level. We add to that how dangerous that is in certain people's eyes.
Facts.
And how much we can change
And at that
and
time,
get done.
At that time, it was even more dangerous.
True.
Because you had somebody like J. Edgar Hoover running the FBI.
Exactly.
So to educate the black man and black woman, or to give them hope through the church, or to give them knowledge of self through Malcolm,
True.
either way, it was looked at as a terroristic act to J. Edgar Hoover to educate the black man and woman.
True. And Malcolm was more, was able to, Martin Luther King traveled, he was in the East a little bit, but Malcolm was more profound because on a human rights level. Malcolm rose up to the human rights level and traveled to the East, came back and was able to tell the people in this hemisphere what was going on over there, what wasn't going on over there, and how we lived, what we came from, and how all people was unified in the effort. That was a threat to what was going on during Hoover's campaign and time, because division, separation, when we're looking at Jim Crow, was their empowerment, because they divided us from within.
That's right.
So even the shades of our color to the different makeups of class systems that we felt we was in, we divided ourselves. Like we looked at each other like they're not of us.
They're not, yeah.
And they use us to get us. When we're looking at Fred Hampton all the way up, to Jesse Jackson, we had our own doing this to us.
Mm-hmm.
By the hands of a Hoover or the COINTEL program.
Speaking of Jesse Jackson.
Come on.
Moving on to the next group.
Come on. Jesse Jackson. Come on.
To lighten it up just a little bit. Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton. Bigger impact on black culture.
I would have to go with Al Sharpton.
Wow, you shocked me on that.
I would. I mean, Jesse has done a lot, but Jesse also, we have to look at, and this is what I'm big on, everything's not for everybody.
Right.
And we were raised that way, where that you don't run your mouth or you censor what you say in certain audiences or atmospheres or environments. So when he spoke out against Barack Obama and other things of that nature, it took a lot from his name and his push.
Right.
Because when you have the people putting you in a category, and have the people putting you in a position and honoring you for that, and then you bring your personal side out,
Right.
it tarnishes what you have built because people see you in a different light. So that would be the only thing with Jesse Jackson that, you know, I shook my head on, like, could have did that better.
Damn,
and you should have been, yeah, damn, Jesse, you should have been a little bit more aware that they had the mics on. You know what I'm saying?
Tighten up, Jeff.
Tighten up, you know, so
All right, so I
that's
got
why.
another one
Come
for you.
on with it.
Marcus Garvey or Fredrick Douglass?
Marcus Garvey.
And why?
Marcus Garvey, and a lot of people don't understand that Marcus Garvey started the conscious movement
Yeah.
in North America, in the wilderness of North America.
Yeah.
And we will say the wilderness because we was blind, dumb, and deaf to ourselves and our said ability and who we was as a people. Marcus Garvey not only came and gave us the literature and the know-how and the knowledge of self, but he also started teaching us on how to manage money and things of that nature, which we lacked. He also showed us that we could be royalty and the legal aspects of that. That's why they had to deport him, because of what he knew and what he was able to do. So legally, they got him sent back because he already was on top. But by the time he left, he had already set the seeds in place for it to grow.
True.
So I would say Marcus Garvey on that one.
Okay.
Next one. And it's funny, well, it's a good prelude until this one when you say Marcus Garvey was the first to bring the consciousness to the wilderness of North America. Because now these next two verses, Noble Drew Ali or Elijah Muhammad, bigger impact on the black culture.
Well, we got to say Noble Drew Ali because Elijah Muhammad learned from Noble Drew Ali. So when you look at the chain of command and how the evolution of our consciousness came from civil rights era, you got to look at Noble Drew Ali's position.
Right.
See, the Noble, he learned straight from Garvey and people of the East.
Okay.
So he took aspects of economic structure from Garvey,
Right.
but he also learned the teachings of spirituality and the wholeness of our people. We say the wholeness of man because they don't deal with black men.
Right.
That title they don't deal with. I understand that because that's a title we took on and we empowered. Right? So with the Noble, he brought forth where he had, I want to say, he had 19 temples in 1929, and that was unheard of. And each temple had their own economy. Each temple had their own economy, their own shares as far as economically. They was empowering the families of those temples, and it was on a conscious level. You didn't have to, pay tithes or still struggle. They made sure everybody was equal in stance. So I would say Noble Drew Ali over Elijah because Elijah was a part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and a lot of that structure he took to build his own. So we have to look at the chain of command in that sense. Elijah did a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, we know that. And we can't take away from Elijah's accomplishments, but we had to look at where his structure came from. That came from the Noble.
Came from Noble. Okay.
So next verses, I'm gonna modernize it a little bit. When I'm gonna ask you bigger impact on black culture, Spike Lee or Tyler Perry?
Now, those that understand and is on the ground level, Spike Lee. On a more of a commercial level, or I'm not even gonna say a trendy level, but a commercial level, you would look at Tyler Perry because you don't know his story. To me, they're equal, but those that don't know Tyler's story, they just go off the Medea, the plays, and they really don't even know about the plays and what this man endured.
Right. Okay.
In the travel, the discipline, and the stereotypes that went on with the character. And I just watched not too long ago his story, and I learned his upbringing. That's another thing we don't know. What type of struggle or pain a person comes from and what they use that pain to produce.
Okay.
So Spike,
that's the difference.
Yeah, that's the difference. When I looked at Spike's story, I damn near cried because he was brought up in similar circumstances in the city of New York that I was. So when I watched this story, it took me back to a lot of things that I went through in my upbringing and a lot of family ties. And I was able to relate to Spike on that level. And then a lot of the means of him being boycotted by Hollywood and things of that nature, where they didn't want his films and the consciousness that he was putting out there, you know, to be produced. So he did it on his own. Same thing with Tyler. So we would say they're even.
You say they're even. Okay.
I'm going to drink on it.
All right, I got another one for you. This would be interesting if you'll drink on this. Probably not. Bigger impact on black culture, Michelle Obama or Oprah?
On black culture, Michelle Obama. Oprah and her, and it's funny with Oprah, and I am a big fan of Oprah, and Oprah has helped my evolution a lot when I was incarcerated. But when you look at Oprah, you have the before and after. You have Color Purple.
Right.
Then you have the now, where she's supporting Tyler and things like that, so that gets her right back to her people.
Right.
But the midpoint, when she's coming up in her industry, she's going through what she went through as far as fighting to get on her feet, get a talk show, things of that nature.
Right.
We didn't know too much about Oprah. Females knew about Oprah, and that was her main, 80 to 85% of her audience was females. So as black males, we was, it was non-existent to us. But even as a black male, you knew about Michelle Obama.
Facts.
And you would look at, and I looked at Michelle being healthy for my daughters. Because of the image of a black mother, how she took care of her daughters. And when you look at that, you would say, that's what it is. And you can relate to that.
NWA or Public Enemy?
I'm a drinker on that, but I expound though. That's a tie. A lot of people these days wouldn't even understand that one. NWA and Public Enemy both was responsible for a lot of our awakening and consciousness.
Okay.
NWA, from the average eye, people were frowned upon and think it was, based on drugs, based on the street life, based on anti-police type of music and anti-government. Same thing with Public Enemy on the anti-government aspect, right? But it was awakening in an eye view of what we went through on those levels.
Right.
What the environment produced in us, what we had to endure. You looking at NWA coming up, and we was young. I can remember the first album I had that I wasn't supposed to have was NWA.
Yeah.
And I'm going up and down the streets. I walked to the mall, look older than what I am, wasn't supposed to buy. That's when they first had put the little sensors on there, bought my little CD, and was, screaming and yelling things I didn't even know about until I got older and I looked back into NWA. Public Enemy, the same thing. We looked at Flavor Flav, we looked at Chuck D in a certain way, and we seen them as being militant, and we seen Flav as being entertaining and things of that nature. Well, we didn't understand the political awareness that those brothers was bringing forth and what they stemmed from.
Right.
So when we talking about from Garvey to Jesse Jackson, they was publicizing that in a music level, that whole ride and journey into songs. So the conscious mind understood what they was representing, but the average just liked the beat or liked the melody or liked the hook.
Right.
Well said. Well, with that, me and my cousins podcast, we're going to take a break after this segment. We'll be right back. The ice has been broken, so we're going to jump right into things upon your return.
If a woman has another man outside of her relationship that she views as someone she can look up to for guidance, is this a good thing or a bad thing for the guy she's in a relationship with? And why?
Is he a pastor? Is he a even a father figure? Somebody who she really trusts, and let's say you're the spouse or you're the husband or you're the boyfriend or whatever, and it's like, is it disrespectful to you, or does that make you feel a certain way that she looks up to another man? Is that detrimental to your relationship? It truly depends on the understanding of who this man is to her. it has to truly be somebody who, number one, is you being the husband or the man or the boyfriend, somebody that you respect and somebody that you trust. The right situation. You know, I'm not saying that women always have to follow everything that your husband says or everything that the man says, you know, in a certain way, but I really wouldn't go for that. I really wouldn't like that kind of a scenario, but I understand that sometimes some couples need that. And far be it for me to say, hey, you know, this man is doing wrong by another man in their relationship because he's guiding a woman, you know, giving his opinion on their relationship. The thing is, she has to be a stronger, smarter woman and understand that, you know, and kind of see everything from afar and understand that it's just advice from another man. And if it's another man's opinion, it's just another man's opinion. You got to make your own opinion, you know, being, you know, a woman in a relationship, a committed relationship with a man.
Here we have the community activist, transitional house manager, clothing line owner, founder of Turning Around LLC, certified peer recovery specialist, state certified trainer for peers, college student, homeowner, and author of his latest release, Realistic, Elegant, Vibrant, Exceptional, Astonishing, and Loving, Mr. Jeremy Johnson. Right. So, Mr. Johnson, we're going to jump right into it. The first question I like to ask, to try to get the audience familiar with you. As we know, you served 21 years in prison, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yes,
So
indeed.
my first question I'd like to ask, just to allow the audience to follow along. What year was it going to prison for you? How old were you? You know, and who were you as a person, character-wise, at that time?
It was the end of 2000. I was 23 going on 24 years old. As a person, mentally I was a young man.
Right.
And blind to a lot of things. Physically and on the street level, I had lived a life of an adult.
Right.
I had lived, I would say I had lived a well-established life on the street level,
Mm-hmm.
and had learned more than most adults were learning their whole journey at that point, you know, but emotionally, I was a mess.
Mm.
So, you know, when I look back upon that now, you couldn't tell me when that happened that I wasn't on top of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't tell me at that point that I wasn't a good person.
Right.
I wasn't a provider.
Right.
I wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do as a man.
Mm.
Yet I didn't understand that I had not matured on the emotional level, on the spiritual level, or even on the awareness of manhood, because a lot of components was absent.
Right.
And a lot of support that was needed in that transition or in that development was not present.
Mm.
So we look at ourselves and we judge, you know, the book by the cover. We do.
Right.
But when in hindsight, when you look back after you don't had a journey, you see the missing pieces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Around the time when you got your sentence, what was going through your mind, would you say, when you received a 60+ year sentence? You know, what were your thoughts about, you know, as far as your daughter, your mother, you know, as you just alluded to, your emotions were a mess. So how did you deal with the emotions of such a burden at such a young age? And
I was sentenced, first of all, I was facing 4 life sentences in 13 years. That was what I was facing, right? The situation I was in, dealing with felony murder. You gotta look at
just like Coltrane, then I'ma think she's stupid, scarecrow with no brain. A black widow, her website's my domain. At least in her eyes, preaching to me like she's ordained. Sweet as sugar cane.
Tito Vacci, Monogram Eyewear. Stay forever in style.